Seriously.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
And it's a classic that I do not own myself.
Oh, snap.
I know, exactly. It's a classic that I do not own. I'm kind of unwilling to take the time and pay the expense to really go seek it out because, I'm busy.
All right.
And
I think,
you know what I remember
your
about
choice
that?
has been well and truly justified.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You know
Really?
what's interesting
Okay,
with
then I'm done.
Super Metroid? I remember there was a time when I went to stores where there were like tons of them on shelves for going for like
$12.
$12.
I bought
Really?
one for $12
yeah.
a few years back.
And I was just like, and then
You could've made a killing.
a year later, or 2
They
years
vanished.
later,
Yeah, they cleared
Right.
out the Super Nintendo about a year after the N64 arrived, and all of a sudden everything became really hard to find.
yeah.
A Link to the Past you could also buy for some crazy dirt cheap price, and
Wow.
now it's quite a bit more expensive.
Yeah.
Chris,
I'm going to say this. Here's my dream scenario. Buena Vista Games says, hey, let's call up our old friends from Capcom and let's talk to them about hammering out some of these license agreements so we can get DuckTales and Chippendales Rescue Rangers on the Virtual Console. Because Capcom owns the game code, Disney owns the characters, so all they need to do is just,
so you want,
get together.
let me guess, Mickey Mousecapade.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's I want this whole big ridiculous business deal to happen so that I can play Mickey fucking Mousecapade. Yeah.
Sweet.
I'd love it if Sega and Buena Vista came up with a similar
Sure.
arrangement.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
There were so many good
Castle,
games.
Castle of Illusion.
Yep.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
There's
Fantasia.
hey Disney, Buena Vista. It's a lot of money to be made. Go.
They
go.
made better
Seriously.
games than you do.
I was trying to be nice to them.
There's
Catch
just
more
something-
flies with
there's-
honey, Mr.
There's
Parrish.
something about those 8 and 16-bit games that the modern games do not capture.
Okay.
Although, I don't think that's entirely unlikely because all the Mickey's Magical Adventures or whatever the hell games that came
Yeah.
out for Super Nintendo and Super Famicom did make it a GBA.
Yeah. So obviously there's
So,
there's still a working
there's some
partnership
kind
there.
of connection there.
Yeah.
You guys just need to make it happen.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah, that's like free money. Just do it.
Yeah, it is free money.
So
It's
which
free
of those
money.
games would you want?
I would want DuckTales. DuckTales is a great game.
Not DuckTales 2?
Well, DuckTales. You said one game.
I know, but I'm wondering which one do you think is better?
I didn't play much DuckTales 2. It might be better, but I just have the nostalgic feelings.
Well,
for
all right, then DuckTales.
DuckTales.
And Sam.
You know what? I was thinking, we haven't seen any really good space shooters like.
Besides Superstar Soldier?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Okay.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. Okay, but I meant actually on.
And I think
I was
R-Type
gonna
is
say
supposed to
on
be next
live.
week. Oh,
But,
on live.
yeah.
Well, there's Defender, there's Galaga.
Yeah, but I mean like stuff like Thunder Force or something like that. One of my favorites is Thunder Force 4, which came out here as Lightning Force.
Lightning.
Yeah,
Force.
Lightning Force.
It makes
yeah.
you feel light.
Yeah, but that was a really, really damn good game, and I don't think enough people played it, and that would be an awesome one to see on live. I'm actually just curious to see how people would kind of react to it these days too, like how well it would do.
That is a good one. Good choice.
Thanks.
I'd say damn near anything would be better than this week's Virtual Console.
Yeah, we'll get to
What?
that later.
Well, we'll get to that.
We'll get to that later.
There's a special segment for that. yeah.
Dear Lord above, we'll get to that later.
Here's something that's really interesting that I have never seen occurring before.
What's
and
that?
this has started. Games coming out on handheld that are getting console versions, spin-off console versions.
Right. Actually, yeah, this is something I mentioned on EGM's podcast.
Oh,
Plug. With Dragon Quest IX coming to DS, all of a sudden we're in this weird place where
Right.
the spin-offs are on Wii. It's very bizarre.
right.
Dragon Quest Swords, the spin-off is on the
Right.
console.
Same true, though,
The actual
of-
sequel.
PS3 is not exempt. You have Untold Legends on PSP.
Yeah.
You
Grip
have
Shift.
it's right. And,
Oh,
and
right,
then you
right.
suddenly have big screen counterparts that are based on games that first came out on the small screen. Guess where the sequel is? On your home console.
Interesting.
Or you have
Very
games
strange.
like Prince of Persia on PSP that's actually ported to the Wii.
Right. Yeah.
Whoa,
no,
wait.
I mean, is it really
I
the
thought that
PSP
was-
I don't
version
know.
being-
I don't
no,
know.
I thought
they're
that was
titling
like
it the same as the PSP
PS2
version.
game went to PSP, which is then going to Wii or something.
I
Yeah.
don't know. We were just joking.
I
about
bet it's
it
going to have some
yesterday.
technical issues with that many ports going on. though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's gonna. Well, I mean, the GameCube version
The
certainly had a lot of
ultimate game
technical
of
issues,
telephone.
but yeah,
Right.
But that's really interesting to me. That
It is.
This is the path that and I think this ties into
Our topic.
yeah, that too.
Our topic.
Fantastic.
Our
Hey, hey.
topic being that, like much like the South will rise again, handheld consoles are rising now.
Right.
yeah,
I don't actually believe the South
for
will
the
rise
first
again,
time
but,
ever. Right.
but I'm
right.
putting
but,
out the
Yeah.
olive branch to our Southern listeners. No, it's interesting because I've been a handheld gaming aficionado for a while. I guess when the GBA came out is when I really was like, handheld games can be kind of awesome. They're
Mhm.
not just crappy versions of NES games. That's great.
You were like the one guy in the office that was always like championing these like handheld games.
Well,
That's
definitely.
right. Back
And
back
now
when-
you can like hold it over everyone's
I
Yeah,
can.
ahead
I
of the
can.
curve.
That's why I'm having this podcast right now.
Definitely.
No, that was back in 2003 when things
Right.
were looking pretty bleak all around.
Right.
I don't know. I was getting a lot of enjoyment out of the portable games that were coming out that year. You know, you had Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, you had Ninja Cop or Ninja 5.0.
Mhm.
This is a
just-
very good year.
yeah, just
Yeah.
random stuff like that. You know, things that people kind of overlooked, but they really appealed to me because they had that classic vibe to them, especially Ninja 5.0. That could have been a Genesis game really, really easily. It was by Hudson, published by Konami. It had the kind of shinobi feel to it, had a little bit of Bionic Commando, had a little bit of this and that. And it had a really, really solid feel to it.
And it kind of came out of nowhere.
It did,
Like,
and
was-
it sold nothing whatsoever. But that's where handhelds really have excelled for a while. They've had this kind of like revival of the 16-bit and 8-bit classics, to the point where the GBA half the good games were just ports of the Super NES.
Right.
You know, you had like the Mario games and the Final Fantasies and whatever. But there's also been a great deal of original content. You have, the Castlevania games for GBA and DS were all original. You have stuff like Super Princess Peach. You have things like Trace Memory and Hotel Dusk, which are classic adventure games. Just lots of things that have, forgotten genres that you don't see on
Right.
consoles anymore. 2D platformers, top-down action games.
well, they're
Right.
also it's
and
also
they're alive
yeah.
on portable systems.
And it's
Exactly.
because a lot, and one of the reasons is that you've got games that they're much more cheaper to produce.
Right.
And then you've got guys like Igarashi, the Castlevania guy, who is too afraid to do a console version because he doesn't think he can make back the money on it or whatever. And so he's going to keep doing the handheld versions that are in the style that the Castlevania audience is looking for.
Right, and you
that
run
he actually feels passionate about.
and they run the risk of doing of kind of mining themselves out and,
Right.
and falling into a rut with that. And I think Castlevania is in danger of that right now. But at the same time, there are so many different franchises that are just dying to be revived and revitalized. Ghost and Goblins. I hated Ultimate Ghost and Goblins, but at the same time,
Right.
it was really cool, just conceptually, to see a legitimate sequel to this old series that hasn't seen an actual
Well,
follow up. I mean, if you count the Maximo games, but you really shouldn't. It's been, like 10 years since the last Ghosts and Goblins. Something I think is really, really germane to this discussion is, the PSP that represented the threat to 2D games.
exactly.
Is that something that we should be even more worried about now? Because, if franchises are migrating from console to portable, there's going to be a demand for greater power. I mean, Nintendo won't be shy about upgrading the DS, whenever they think they can get money for doing it.
Right.
So does the rise in the legitimacy, the newfound legitimacy of portable game systems, does that mean that we'll see more money put into these classic franchises, or does it mean that people are going to expect a greater push toward console-style experiences on portables?
I think expecting greater power does not necessarily mean it has to be the console-style experience in terms of, actually exactly replicating that 3D gameplay. You can have powerful 3D stuff going on, but it can be game design that's designed specifically for the portable and the small screen. I mean, this is why I laugh whenever somebody suggests, and people still suggest this now, I bet, Nintendo's going to make a portable GameCube, or a portable system that just runs GameCube games. It's
Right,
like,
because nothing's better than a portable optic drive.
Right.
and nothing's better than like having a game that was designed, because now you're not even, because this makes Prince of Persia on PSP look like genius, because at least they took the game and ported it to PSP. Now you're just talking about running the same program on a small screen so that you can't read any of the text in Zelda or whatever. It's like they wouldn't do that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that worked with Nomad, kind of. It would work much less effectively with GameCube.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with a different kind of experience. But that's not really, I don't know, that's not really my concern. My concern is just that, I guess, you're still going to have people who see portable systems as a bastion of more simple games, more 2D style games. But you're also going to have more people say, oh, there's money to be made in portable systems. And, kind of repeat this problem we've had with the PSP, where everyone jumped on, who had never made portable game systems before, or portable games before. Lots of American developers who were like, oh, it's a great opportunity for us to put PlayStation 2 style experiences on a portable system, and encountered failure.
Yeah, well, the excuse before was that the technology wasn't there, and what you're saying is that when the technology is there, or if the technology is already there, then is that excuse still valid?
I guess I'm worried that people are not going to recognize the innate difference between portable and console gaming. I think a lot of Japanese developers get it, but I think Americans are still struggling with it. I mean, Ratchet & Clank on PSP looks like a good game, but I played it at TGS, and I did not think it was that fun because, that's a PS2 game. And when you don't have the PS2 interface, when you don't have a big screen to look at, it sucks the joy right out of it. As much as I love Ratchet & Clank, I just couldn't get into it. And I wonder how long it's going to take for a lot of developers to really catch on to that, especially if they start migrating to DS.
Racers, though, on PSP are great. I don't know.
That's because you're moving left and right.
Is that the only reason?
There's like one axis of motion in a racing game.
I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that's one of the reasons. And because the view is fixed,
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about camera movement.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But with the announcement of Dragon Quest IX on DS, what does that mean for the